Hi guys, Melissa here and welcome back to my channel. So this is another layout for Confessions of a Paper Addict and it's for our release which is love and marriage themed, and I think it's called A Perfect Match. And what we are doing is teaming up with SpeigleMom Scraps, and so Jodie has sent us all these beautiful vintage dowry sequins. They're absolutely beautiful. Give you a better look there. I have a photo of Brielle wearing my wedding dress. I kept my wedding dress intentionally. Brielle's having a chuckle because she can hear me. I kept it and I always wanted to take photos of my girls in it. So I've done Azaria and Brielle. I think it's last year or the year before even. And I've got a doily. And aside from that, oh, the cut file. Did not forget that. I've cut this one. Let's move that out of the way. I think it's called Filigree Heart, and what I want to do is use this Shimmers Dazzlers in Forward Again and put that through like a stencil. And then I've got the Midnight collection in this bag. Please excuse Ava in the background. This was a scrappery kit and I've still got a bit left, so I'm keen to use that, and I'll show you more as I get going. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to do was use the Dazzlers and put it through my stencil. And my stencil is made of American Crafts textured cardstock, so it's not perfect, but it does the job. And I am using, you know how you get with a bone folder, you get like the, I guess this is the bit that if you folded a card or piece of paper in half, you'd use this to smooth down the crease. But I'm using it for mixed media and I use it quite often. Now I could have used an old credit card, but it wouldn't have fit in that little Dazzlers pot. And then I've just gone over the top with a piece of cardboard packaging. So you certainly don't need to have all the equipment. You can make do with what you have. And I'm not a huge mixed media person, but I do like to play. So I went through the kit, and the kit is probably half used, and I just went through and pulled a few things that I thought were going to work with this layout, and I didn't use everything. So those cards, those Project Life cards, I didn't use, but I knew that I wanted to use that beautiful pink paper, and I've just got a scrap left, and also that stunning floral. So I'm using this little scrap of pink paper as a mat for my photo, and it's kind of ombre textured and it's really pretty. And then I really wanted to feature the floral, and so rather than cutting a smaller mat, I've made it a bit bigger so you can actually see that it's a floral. And I wanted to tear the edge, and I like to tear it in a way that you can see the torn edge on the paper. If I'd torn it the other way, as I was about to, that torn edge would be on the other side, which is grey paper. So that's just a little trick if you like to see the inner core of the paper exposed. So I'm just trimming off the top part. I think it was too big, and then just seeing how it's going to look on my doily. So I was trying to get as much of this layout done as possible while that heart dried, and it did take a really long time to dry. I've actually got it sitting in the sun. It's winter at the moment, but there is still quite a lot of heat in the sun. And here I have this little triangle little container, in case anyone's wondering. I think it's from Close to My Heart. My friend sells it and she gave us all one of these, and they're perfect for putting things like sequins in, and then when you come to put your sequins back in your little bag, all you have to do is tip them in via the corner of the triangle. So I decided to use the smaller sequins to frame my photo, and you can see on the left there I've taken out the larger one of the larger sequins, and I struggled with how to use the large sequins, but having since watched Laura, who is taking a scenic route, I watched her video just before I recorded this, and she used those larger sequins tucked in like an embellishment, and I wish I'd done that, but thank you, Laura, because you've given me an idea on how to use them. And so I didn't show you my finished frame, but you'll see it soon. And of course, one of my cats now wants to come into the room, so just hold fire a sec. So I think I've said before that if it's not children interrupting, it's cats. So yeah, I've just cut apart some of the items from the cut apart sheet, wasn't sure about the one I'd cut apart, so I turned to my favourite paper in the entire collection, and it's this beautiful kind of hand-drawn floral with watercolour that goes outside of the lines, which I love. And here I am just fussy cutting out some of the florals, and at this point I wasn't really sure how or what I was going to use them for. I just knew that I had to do something while that heart dried. So at this point I think that it's dry, but it's not, as you'll see soon. And I'm finding that the pink colour really isn't working for me. I don't know if it's because it doesn't really match the collection, or whether it's because it's just too much for me to use pattern paper as a background. So there you can see it's kind of bending a bit, which tells me it's not dry, and then I get some of that paste on my scissors, which definitely tells me it's not dry. So I'm going to put it aside and wait a bit longer and keep working on my sort of cluster of embellishments around that doily. Because I am abandoning the full-on pink background, I'm going with my trusty white, but I wanted to add a little bit of splatter because it's going to be very stark otherwise. So I'm just using, I think, gold, maybe, no, I'm using pink and the pale pink, I think it's called Rose from Heidi Swap. And now finally this is dried, and I have to admit I was nervous cutting this out because I was just freehanding it and cutting around the textured or modern paste. So it wasn't pretty, but especially underneath where my photo was going, but I knew the doily and photo would cover it. And I didn't want it to be perfect. I'm really happy with how it turned out, considering I was nervous doing it. So here I'm just playing around with some florals and one of the chipboard florals, but mostly I will get a lot of the embellishment, or pretty much all of it, out of that beautiful pattern paper that I've fussy cut. So originally I thought I would place these all around the doily in the photo, not in a circle, but just in a few areas. But I tucked a few underneath the heart, and I loved how that looked. So I'm wanting to commit pretty quickly to this because I'm aware that when I made this video, it felt like it was going on forever. I've cut a lot of my indecisiveness out of the video because you don't need to see it. But yeah, it's not always that easy for me. Things don't always flow. So I think with this layout, when I started, I had a general idea of doing the heart, certainly not trimming it out. And I knew I wanted to use the doily. I wasn't sure about the sequins. I had originally thought about stitching them with my machine, maybe doing a row of them. But as I started to stick them down, I loved the way the frame looked. So I'm having to trim down some of this. It's just too big, like that corner piece there is way too big given the scale of everything. And I'm wanting to select some leaves as well as flowers, just to give it a bit of movement. And I think in that instance it was too much with that leaf attached to the flower, because the heart and obviously that cut file is the main feature aside from the photo. So that leaf there, I think, yeah, I must have fussy cut that. It almost looks like a die cut, I think, because it's darker. And I love where I've put it there and it stays there. And then I'm just adding a few more leaves to the flowers. So I just keep going until I'm happy. I think that's until it feels balanced to me. And at this point, I don't even think I've adhered no, I haven't adhered the heart. So there comes a point where you have to stick everything down. And this is now. So I'm using glossy, well, it's like glossy accents, it's liquid glass in that fine line bottle. And finally, I have a bottle that works for me. So I think my previous video, I used that as well. And if anyone's wondering, I just got it from scrapbook.com. It's made for quilling, and I'm so, so happy with it. I've even found that I don't have to put a needle down it to unclog it. It actually stays unclogged. So I've put my photo and doily up on some craft foam and just adhering that with double-sided tape. I probably could have skipped this bit out, and I should have. But that's just giving a bit of lift for that entire cluster. And these are the joyful day, like puffy words, and a few icons, or hearts and flowers and stars. And I knew I wanted to make a title from this, and I thought the word dream was beautiful because it's quite dreamy, her being in a wedding dress when she's only, I think, 3 or 4. And so, I don't know, some girls dream about their weddings, I guess. I don't think I did, but Brielle talks about having 64 babies, so maybe she is dreaming about a wedding. Anyway, this definitely needed some liquid adhesive to stick it down, just because that mixed media is probably not the best thing to just expect a sticker to stick to. So then I got some of these translucent stickers. I used the hearts, and this is like a little, I guess, watercolor swatch, and I just trimmed it because it was a little bit long. And remember that you can do that. You can trim things off and make them work for you. So nearly coming to the end of this now. Really happy with how it's looking at this point, and deciding, I think, to use up all of the pink hearts in that sticker sheet. And then there's some beautiful translucent sticker words as well, and I just got the 2 words beautiful you, and I love that they're clear stickers. And then I know that I need something on the left of my photo, and I'm not loving the way the doily is looking at, sticking up like that. And so in the end, I didn't go with anything I'd cut apart. I went with that What a Time to Be Alive from the ephemera pack. And then I think, I can see my layout from where I'm sitting. That little sticker says Sweet Thing, which she is, and I thought that was just a perfect little, probably like a subtitle just to have above. I think it balances well with the title. And then I just adhered that little, I don't know what you call that, little piece of ephemera. It's like a subtitle as well. And then the final thing I did before journaling was to get my little foam hexagons from Stampin' Up! And just lift up some of the foliage and some of the edges of the flowers for some dimension. So adding my journaling, and I'm saying how much I loved seeing her in my wedding dress during our photo shoot. And the final touch is to add some of these white enamel dots that come from the kit, which are also from the collection. And that will be my final layout. So I've got a photo of my final layout, some close-ups, and at the very end you can find a link to the Confessions of a Paper Addict Etsy shop. And I'll have that below as well, and I'll also have a link to SpeigleMom Scraps. So thank you so much to Jodie for the beautiful sequins, and of course to Virginia.